Welcome to the Operation Move podcast. My name is Zoe, and this week I have an episode that I recorded with Ness back on the 7th of December, but it's actually kind of funny given what we were talking about and how long it's taken me to get this up, because this is all about basically coping with overwhelm. So although we're kind of talking about Christmas and end of year stuff and school and planning for the new year, I think that you'll still get a lot out of this chat. How's your week been?
Not too bad. I've had a very good morning. I made an appointment with a new doctor. Because I went to Sydney a couple of weeks ago. I think it might have been just after we last spoke, and came home and I got really sick again. And, once again, thought it was COVID, wheeled in, got the PCR. No, not COVID, just your stock standard virus again. So I decided, look, you probably just need to go and see a doctor and just, get checked out just to make sure everything's okay. And I got the most wonderful doctor, just really thorough and really good. And, when you sit there and she's asking quite detailed questions, and it's when you spell it out to someone else, all the stuff you have in your life, you sort of go, no wonder I'm tired.
Yeah.
And even she was looking at me with her head on the side, I wonder why that is. So she was really lovely, and so we'll just get bloods done and check things. And she sort of said, so what do you want to do if these all come back and they're okay? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I guess I have to put myself higher up the list, don't I? Instead of everyone else. And and then she spoke about, would you be interested in speaking to a counselor or a psychologist? Just they might be able to give you some help. And I'm like, oh yeah, hell yeah. If everything comes back and there's no reason for me to be so fatigued other than I have a full life. But it was so funny. As I'm saying it, as it's coming out of my mouth, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you can really sometimes it's not you don't realize how close to the edge you are until you sort of cross over it a little bit. I've had it's probably at least 3 weeks now of just really tough parenting stuff, just with sort of sort of school sort of bullying and just gross stuff like that. And you kind of think, oh, I'm handling it. But now anytime I was literally at the gym on the rower, and it's probably I've been going to PT because that's sort of that's pre-planned. I have to show up.
Yep.
And as probably one of the PTs, I probably spent the first 10 minutes crying before we actually did any exercising. And then even today, as it is sort of we're just right, we just got to get to the end of the year. We've got maybe a week of school to go, just get to the end. And so it is sort of starting to turn around. But so I'm on the rower, we're doing 6 sets of going every 3 minutes for 400 meters. So maybe I think it was taking me a minute and 40 seconds. So get a little bit of rest and then go again. And somebody, one of the coaches asked me, it's oh, I haven't seen you around much. Are you still running? And I can't actually get out the words I've been struggling with parenting stuff without crying. I literally, and I'm there and I probably couldn't have talked to a more
Red flags.
perfect person because she's dealing with some similar stuff with her kid as well. And but it's just you're oh, okay, really, just like right on the edge of my capacity here.
Yep. Yep. And that it was, yeah, it was really, I think I was there for about half an hour. And, usually the doctors in this area, and they're probably the same everywhere. Like you go in, yep, what do you want? 5 minutes, you're out the door. But, I left actually feeling like, if it does come back as everything's okay, then yeah, I have some steps in play. Like I know then what our next step might be.
Yeah.
And I know then I need to put myself higher up the list. And I also understand why I am so fatigued and tired, and why I feel like I've been sick for a whole bloody 6 or 8 months or so. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a good day to start my life admin day and my work from home day. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it makes a difference. Like even just like I found a doctor locally who is a runner,
Yeah.
and even just like that sort of like common point of view, he's like, oh, I'm actually going to check a bunch of these other things that could be low because of like running stuff, and like and just and also um like with people who are good, you can kind of like skip over some of that thing of like, usually one of their sort of like go-tos is like, oh well, like if your iron is low, maybe you should try eating this or eating that. And he's like, no, like we gotta like take medication to cut down on the length and severity of the periods, because that's where the anemia is coming from, and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, and it it does make a big difference to have like with getting over COVID and needing to like the uni wanted like all of this documentation, but it was like the instructions were like, if you weren't in respiratory distress, not to go to the doctor, because you're then just like potentially infecting more people. And so, and then the uni's like, well, where's your medical evidence? And I'm like, well, I don't know. But, you have that relationship, so I could go and talk to him and say, like, this is what I need you to tell these bureaucrats. And he's like, oh, yeah, write that down.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So, yeah.
yeah. So
I
no, I
was
feel
seeing,
good.
like, I saw on your Instagram that you had started working on your 2023 planner.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm such a nerd.
Did you like? I always because I thought that would be like a good thing to, like, as we sort of like getting towards the end of the year and like people are starting. I do feel like there is, we're sort of like finally getting to the point where we could potentially plan something now
Yeah.
after the last few years. But do you like use a planner every year? Because I always have grand intentions of using something, but then my fear of sullying stationery overwhelms me.
And look, my planner is so pretty. Like, it's so pretty. It's big. Like it's a
That
day to
is
a
big.
page. It is. It's not something that's overly portable. She does do a quarterly one, and look, and it's too nice to write in, but it is so, like, the lady who designs it, she's from Gundawindi. She's an amazing, like, high achieving, high revving person, so she gets it. Um, and it's so good. Like, I don't want to dirty it, but each fresh page is nice and tidy and neat. So it's nice to you know, to enter my stuff in there. And yeah, and look, and I started using it a couple of years ago, and I thought I wouldn't use it all year. but I've noticed the times when I'm not using it religiously, and like she has little tips like, plan next week on a Friday afternoon so you go into
Mm.
the weekend free and you know what you're doing on Monday morning. Um, and when I get back into the habit of doing that, I find my mental capacity for my work improves.
Yeah.
Um, but I can see clearly, like I get in ahead and I can mark everything in ahead. And she does a great, nice big planner for the wall, so all the school holidays get marked in. Um, yeah, I'm a planner. I feel bad because I feel like I'm forever living in the future,
Yeah.
but yeah, like you sort of like, yeah, you feel like my whole of next year, probably till June or July, will be roughly planned out, but it saves me a lot of stress. And when I can look at my wall calendar and get a brief overview of the year, and then I can do each month and week in my planner, yeah, I feel a lot better. And I'm a terrible person for over scheduling things. Like,
Mm.
like today, I could easily, I think there's about 15 or 20 lines for each day. And some days I could fill all those lines, but I shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, I should just stick to, she has the top three, like they're your three really important things, and then your other jobs. And there's a lot of days where I'm getting better at just putting three things to really get done. Anything else I get done is a bonus because obviously for my work, I have another, like a work it's basically like practice management. So it has all my client tasks in, they just pop up when scheduled. So if I go through my three biggest things that I need to get done, I can then go to my workflow and just tick off other jobs. But yeah, I love it. I really, it's just so good. Like, and when you find that planner, like everyone has different planners and different diaries, but because I know the girl and like how her brain works, I'm like, yeah, this will work for me. And it's a game changer. I love it.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's something that I need to like get into more because in the past I haven't necessarily needed to negotiate like sort of more long-term plans. Like often like work has been a lot more process based. It's just like this is something that I do every week or every fortnight, so I don't really need to plan it, and just sort of
Yeah.
happens. But now there's some like longer term sort of stuff going on, and and you've also got sort of like the flow of the week. Like my best time like work wise to get anything done is that sort of like 10 days in between when I complete the payroll and then the
Yeah.
next payroll is due, because then you have sort of like that sort of that breathing room. And yeah, like, so it is one of those things. And even today, like, it's my day off, which I use it, it's like loose. Like I'm like, yeah, like I've got stuff to do. But it's really easy to, I don't know like what is going on in my brain, but I was looking for some, like I was like, I'm working on this thing. I don't know if I'll finish it in time for like a teacher present. If you're not
Yeah.
watching the video, this is like the beginning of a scarf of some kind. Anyway, I bought 5 colours and I couldn't find like one of the colours, and I'm not up to needing that colour yet. Like I don't need to find it. And I could literally this morning feel myself having the capacity to look for this thing that I don't need all day. And I'm like, do not spend your whole day off doing this stupid thing. Like, don't do it. And then it's like, right, I'm moving on. Like, it'll show up or I'll make do without it. It'll be fine. And even as I move on, I'm finding like myself still looking for it. It's just like, stop it. And so
And that's,
even with those sorts of things, I think to like having like I sometimes do need to even sort of like plan the things that I want to do like with that extra sort of like non sort of like work time, because the
Yeah.
other days are so busy. So even something as simple as like I'll go to the barber today to get him to do my hair, because I know that I'll get to next week and it'll be just long enough to annoy me, but I won't be able to go in on like any other day. And I think it's also sort of it is kind of funny because it's always been like come a lot more like natural with the sort of like the running side of things, but it's not something that I've necessarily like implemented on a more sort of like global.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, and that's how I use it, like with my three, my three big tasks that need to get done every day. And it was really funny, like a couple of weeks ago was Baz deadline. And I put on a Facebook group for bookkeepers, like, is anyone else really procrastinating about this, like Baz deadline of their last few Bazes? And I said, currently I'm redesigning my laundry. And I've been researching flat pack options from Bunnings, but now I'm just going to contact someone and get them to come and do it for me. I sat here, I legit spent half a day just looking at how I wanted to do my laundry and sketching it out and then going, oh, okay, like, and I just, and some of the responses were actually really funny, like what people were doing to get out of doing that. And I'm like, no, I just need to go back to my planner, pick three things and just do them today. Like, um, yeah, otherwise, yeah, I get bogged like you with looking for the yarn. Like, oh, I'll clean out the spare room because that's really going to help me. Like, I don't even go into the bloody spare room, and I've got someone coming in February to stay in there, and I want to have it all nice and tidy, even though she won't give a shit. But you know, I could spend half the day today while I have no young small child cleaning it out. Yeah,
Yeah, and it is like getting like I do tend to get like a little bit strategic with that, like with things like that. Like I do have a mountain of clothes to fold today, um, but I'm like, no, like I can do that when the kids are home. That's like not
yeah,
like a kids at school activity. That's the kind of thing that I can easily do while they're running around or having snacks or like whatever else. I'll focus um, on other things, and yeah, so it is just like it's sort of taken, and probably like to like this probably like first week that I'm sort of like starting to sort of like settle into the rhythm of the sort of like the Wednesday, and like not being paralyzed with fear about like wasting my day off and like doing nothing because I'm so uh it's a whole like sometimes I do really question like the whole point of having the day, like working more on the other days, was to open up this day. But then like I am now kind of like experiencing the other side of that, which is it gives me very little room for error on the 4 other days of the week, because there's no
yeah,
like room for me to like go off and like run an errand for an hour or whatever, because I'm never going to get like all of the work in, and then it sort of like puts pressure like on the other day, and I'm like, is this worth it? But I think it is. Like I think just not having to answer emails for a day is probably worth it. And but yeah, like I do think it'll be, I think that too, that like with the way uni is next year, it'll help with that, like being able to have a broader plan for the year and have go like, okay, like I've got like 3 months of uni, and then like I've got like a bigger break where I can do
yeah.
work on other projects and all of that sort of stuff, because otherwise it can just feel like you're kind of like spinning your wheels but just not getting anywhere.
Yep, yep. Nope, I know that feeling. There seems to be a lot of stuff happening, but it's getting you nowhere. Like, yeah.
So is in your with working on your planner, do you mostly have like business stuff in there?
Look, no, I put the whole lot in there. Yeah, like, obviously my business stuff is first and foremost. Um, but I really need to start putting like my running in there and put them in, like there's a section at the top for appointments. So actually put it in there
Yeah.
so that it, like, I love ticking things off. So it's just one planner. Like, I have umpteenth electronic calendars and stuff as well. But the whole lot goes in there. Um, yeah, it's just easier. Have one big dump of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like the electronic stuff is really good, but it's really easy to get scattered because like if you somebody will set an appointment with you and it'll be like in iCal and then another thing will come in to like Google Calendar and like it's really easy for it
Yeah.
to get like all sort of like spread out there. And I think also like writing it down is just infinitely more likely for things to just happen, you know.
Yeah. And there is research on it, and like I don't know the specifics, but there's research on, typing something into an electronic calendar versus actually writing it down.
Mm.
And it's like taking notes on things. Like you could type it on a computer or an iPad while you're watching something, but it's the physical act of writing things down that sort of helps lodge them in your brain. That's very
Yeah.
bad summarizing of it, but I cling to that because I have also as one of my business tools, I have a remarkable notepad,
Yep.
which is just like it's just a notepad. Um, and it's got a little pen and you write on it and it feels like paper when you write on it. It has all these different templates that you can set up like for how you want your page to be. Um, but I take lots of notes when I go to clients' offices or when I'm working on their stuff. Like I take lots of notes and used to carry all these notebooks with me if I was working in town for the day. But yeah, I use it. Like if I'm on a Zoom meeting, I will use it to write on. And people say, "Oh, but you could just use like an iPad and type into the iPad." And I'm like, "It's not the same for me. I know it's not the same. Like I would rather use a notepad to take my notes and write stuff down."
Yeah,
But
I
it's
think
yeah,
I think that I retain it better when it's handwritten. Like I have a
yeah,
bunch of like paper notebooks and I got dragged into the fountain pen universe by Neil Gaiman. It's his fault. It's like, oh, but like he was just talking about it. I was like, that does sound really good. And I bought like just like a really basic one and it has like a cartridge and that sort of which you can get
yeah,
get refills at Officeworks and everything. But I think that it is just one of those things where it can make me more engaged in even things that are probably like a little bit on the boring side, because it's like, oh, I'm using my nice pen, doing my nice things. Um,
yeah, we do.
and, so yeah, I do think it does make a difference. And yeah, like I think that um, the that it's also that much more satisfying when you like tick things off as
To
well.
physically tick things off, like I get no satisfaction about ticking off the jobs I complete for each client in my like practice management thing, but I get great satisfaction about ticking off. Like I might just have, say on today's, I might just have, you know, Ness, and then I've got code zero file. And like I have a work item with the same thing, but I can tick that off and it's like blur. But when I tick it off, the actual physical tick off, I'm like, oh, little pat on the back for me.
One thing I do like, I have like just like a task app on the computer, and one thing that I really like about it is when you complete it, it stays there, but it stays there crossed off, and it's like so much better than it just disappearing like it never happened. Then you see it,
Yeah.
every time you see it, you're like, yes, I did do that.
Yeah. Because otherwise you get to the end of the day or the week and you look and you think, oh, I didn't do anything today because those things have disappeared. Like, yeah. Isn't it funny? Brains are funny things.
I very, very funny. And and I think it's like a bit it's sort of like probably why people love things like Strava too, because it's sort of like, it's always like you always have that record of it being done. Or even how people are with Final Surge, like when you've got like all green or blue
Yeah.
like dots on there for the week. I've had a few weeks of red dots actually, but but I think that it is just that it's like, it's sort of similar to all of those, they have like those videos on YouTube, which is just all pleasing things, like all the sort of symmetry stuff, and it's just like kids like showing me the ones that are the opposite, where
Oh
like
my
you've got
God.
like somebody like cutting like a pizza out of the middle, or like
Yep.
eating a Kit Kat wrong, or
Yep.
like whatever.
Now, I've got a very important question. Like, I've got a bit of a dilemma. I need a new running watch for all the running I'm doing.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I don't know what to get anymore. My poor Coros, it's like I have to charge it every 3 to 4 days. And I'm like, look, buddy, this is not suiting me. But now I'm
Yeah,
like,
I thought that the chorus was supposed to be amazing for battery life.
and look, it is. Back in 2019 it was,
Yeah,
but now I think it's hit
it's
its limit and it's dying.
mm.
So now I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to stick with Coros or if I want to go back to Garmin.
I mean, the main thing like that I look for, like that I know some watches do and some watches don't,
Yeah.
is that that ability to like create a structured workout, like
Yeah.
because I know like for ages, like Sunto were going to do it. I'm not sure if they've done it yet or not. And I just like, not even that I need, even doing something really simple, like at the moment, like a lot of my workouts would be more like kill sprints, and just being able to like, it'll beep, I run for 10 seconds, and then I
Yeah.
walk back down, and then when I press the lap button, I go again. Like for me, that is the most, other than battery life, that is the most useful thing that it can do. And it's also like for running, why I've stayed away from the Apple Watch, because it's not native. Like you've got to then
Yeah.
download an app to do that structured thing. So that, I would say that, and like the like a lot of the other stuff isn't like overly accurate anyway,
Yeah.
like in
Yeah.
terms of like wrist heart rate, or there's always going to be some sort of like GPS errors, that kind of thing. I do have on mine, like it has a solar function, so
Yeah.
it
So which
will.
one have you got?
I got like the Phoenix 6, I think, the big one. Like, because I had
Okay.
one of the S's, like I think I had the 5S, and the battery
Yep.
was just getting annoying for me. Um,
Yep.
and so I was like, I've just got to get a bigger one because it's just going to last for longer. Um, and so I did that, and it does have like if you're outside, the solar sort of extends the battery, and it can also go on like sort of low power for like
Yep.
for an extended period of time, which is good because like sometimes I'll not realize that it's getting low, and then I'll be like, oh, I've still got to go for a run. But so yeah, like I find it quite good for that. They did have like a recent, it was actually, they were comparing the wearables for sleep, and almost all of them were bad for sleep,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
not a surprise. But they were also all the running sort of watches were also quite crap for HRV. Like they,
Yeah.
whereas like the Whoop was really good. Well, it was about 95% accurate for HRV, but it's also one of those things which is unfortunate because like it does not have the function. Like it's quite accurate in terms of recording activity, but like there's no screen, so there's no
Yeah.
like structured workout or anything like that. So I think it's good for all of the recovery stuff, but like not so, like you wouldn't want to use it like in replacement of a running watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think then it also like depends on like with if you're getting like a program delivered, like either via probably the main places that people would get a program delivered on like sort of electronically would be through Training Peaks or Final Surge. And I think with
Yeah.
Final Surge you can probably download the work. It's on like Garmin and Polar, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure like what the situation is with Training Peaks, but I'd also like pay attention to that because it's just so much easier for people when they just go like press a button, it's on their watch. It's just like taking out that step.
Yeah.
And probably also like the other thing is too is just familiarity. Like you might be like maybe the brand that you use is not like 100% optimal for everything, but if you have to relearn an entire different user interface, maybe it's not worth it. Like for people who are really comfortable with an Apple Watch, the fact that it's off for sort of heart rate and GPS, probably not the biggest problem they're likely to encounter, and it's better to have something that you like and are familiar with and like hooks in with everything else. And I'm sort of like a bit like that now with like having had like the Garmin watch for so long. It's like, oh, I don't think I can learn a new system. Like it would have to be a pretty like cool situation. There'd have to be something pretty major about it that was very good for me to like then want to kind of like learn something new. So I think that that's also good to keep in mind, because oftentimes the systems, like different people will interact better with some systems as opposed to others. And like I think I think that my mum is a lot happier since my brother bought her an Apple Watch, and because like she's got, I think that it's probably more as somebody who is technology isn't always the easiest thing. I think the Apple Watch is a bit more intuitive for her than when she was kind of like dealing with my Garmin and not understanding like, well, how do you change the screen like so that like I want this field so that I can see what my pace is when I'm walking. Why did it go away? And all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, like I think that user interface, and I think that sometimes like if you're trying something new, you got to give yourself enough time to kind of like work it out and not go, oh, this is different and I hate it. But I would probably also say I have not had positive experiences with like touch screens.
Yeah.
because I think that
Yeah.
that's probably like one of the first things that under
That's the
heavy
first thing it's
use
going to go.
is gonna break. And so yeah, like and like it depends how you're using it. Like I got Josh one of those Garmin golf watches, but he also uses it for walking, and
Yep.
he really likes the touch screen. But that works for his level of usage because he's not sort of like trying to do the touch screen while he's running, or it's
Yeah.
sort of like just to start the activity and then to finish it and all of that sort of stuff. And then I guess the other aspect of it is like how good, like I have had pretty good like customer service experiences with Garmin, like with
Hmm.
things being out of warranty, but something happening to it and me sending it back and them fixing it for me. So
Yeah.
that also, um, and they've done that with one of my watches and one of Josh's watches, which I think when you're spending that much money on something,
Yeah.
although what I do tend to do is always, whenever they're about to bring something new out, all of a sudden everything is 50% off. And so even though I
Yeah.
know I'm not going to get the newest version because they're about to come out with something new, I just sort of like jump on that when they have that
Yeah.
thing. 'Cause, yeah, like it's very
And
predictable, but
and that's what's like two things there, like learning something new. So that's why like Sunto's out because I'm like I can't learn something new. It's got to be I either stick with Coros or I go back to a Garmin because I know them.
yeah,
Like Garmin would take me a little bit to pick it up again, but that would be
yeah,
fine. Apple Watch is the same. I'm like, nah, don't want to have to learn something new. But like the lovely Kirsten's been doing a bit of research for us. I thanked her last night. I said, thanks for doing research into watches for me. Because she's found like Rebel have got good discounts on them at the moment on like a 6S and the 6s. Because obviously, yeah, they're wanting to get rid of them for the
yeah,
7 that's in there now. And yeah, I'm like, well, you know, it's a lot of money, but it's still better than paying full price. Yeah, so I don't know. It's too many options. And like then, because Kirsten's like, look at Garmin, and I looked at the Garmin website. I'm like, holy shit! Like, what have I been doing the last few years? I didn't even know all these different ones existed. Like,
yeah. And like I think that for the most part, um, the only reason to get sort of like the Phoenix as opposed to the 245 or whatever their more like basic thing
yeah,
is if you just prefer to have something that you can wear as like an everyday watch and not like feel
yeah,
like you're like walking around with a pedometer, you know.
yeah,
And because for the most part, like the functionality is pretty similar. You probably get a bit of better battery life, like a bit more sort of like multi-sport. Although I've sort of stopped using my watch as like a sort of recording device for like strength workouts or CrossFit stuff because it auto goes to Strava, and I just don't think that people have any
yeah.
interest whatsoever in like it'll just be like weight training 60 minutes and it's
Yeah.
just
Oh, we did weight training today. Woohoo!
like you can't see like where you went or like pictures that you took. It's not really what
Oh,
Strava is designed for. I would love a feature with between Garmin and Strava where you could have the option of only auto sharing the running,
yeah,
or like the ability to say like do running or cycling or swimming, but not like
yeah.
yoga or
Like, yeah, have a setting in there so you could like any strength workouts, a little toggle
yeah,
switch where
yeah, because
you just turn in
I
what
kind of
you
like
don't
I
need to.
do like um sort of like recording them, but then like I don't like polluting the feed with it, and yeah, it's challenging.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it is a big investment, and I've always procrastinate so much on like watches because I'm like, oh, like I want something that's going to work for me, but like it's so much money to spend, and like, oh.
And that's what I'm doing, and then it runs out of battery. Like I'll look at it and go, oh, it's not even working at the moment. And then I've got to plug it in and charging it. The charging cord attaching to the thing is very temperamental at the moment, and
Yeah.
so like it's got to be in a certain spot. And then I go, oh my God, this is really shitting me. And so then I get looking for watches, and then I get overwhelmed, and then I get in this little cycle where it all starts again. Like. And it's not until my watch runs out of battery and I go to plug it in and it takes forever to get the connection right that I start again. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it could
Whereas I
be
think
like
I
a
should just,
good sort of like good start to the new year functioning watch.
I think so. I think so. And like, although I can't write it off as a business expense, like I could just put it down. That's my little present for working so hard.
Yeah, exactly, because it's just, and oftentimes like I find like the things that I will often procrastinate on because it's a lot of money or whatever. Once I actually do it, I'm like, oh, like this is the best money I've
Yeah.
ever spent. Like sometimes it's just on like more expensive, sort of like a more expensive running singlet or like something like that. But you can just like tell the difference in like, particularly like as it gets warmer here, and the
Yeah.
functionality of like the technical elements of like what I'm wearing become more important the more extreme the weather gets. Like in other places it
Yes.
might be with the cold where you're really going to be investing in um those fleece tights or whatever. But here, like I have a few running singlets that are sort of this like there's a bit of like a merino blend in them, which would sound like it would be hot, but is
Yeah.
actually really fantastic in like both conditions. And it is like I always look at it and go, oh, I don't want to spend that much money on a singlet. But then the ones that I have are pretty much the only thing that I wear, and they're always the thing that I reach for, like when I'm looking
Yeah.
for something, and like and it's funny like the things that you think of as like really worth the money. Like even we had to buy a new washing machine, which I deeply resented at the time. I was like, I ain't spending money on this shit. It's like registering the car, like so
Yeah.
boring. And but then I realized one, it had a 15-minute cycle for like when you need to wash something quickly. And I was like,
Something in a hurry.
brilliant. And also like has one of those drawer things that if you've forgotten to put something in, you can just open it up and put it in. And it's
Yeah.
that kind of thing which when you're sort of like busy and dealing with kids' uniforms, it has such a really quite disturbing improvement to my quality of life, that washing machine.
And
And
that,
it's,
and that's it. That 15-minute cycle, like it's a godsend. Like, because sometimes, like, I'll get to a night and realize, oh no, I haven't washed Buster's
yeah,
like uniform shirt. He's now got 5 or 6 uniform shirts because I was just like tired of washing all the time. Um, but yeah, that 15-minute cycle, because it's not like you're sitting there waiting for over an hour for your washing machine to finish. Like it's just 15 minutes done and dusted out on the line or on the clothes horse in winter. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
it's a good little function.
yeah. And I think that that's sort of when I'm like doing my like mental tetris of like what I'm gonna spend the money on is is one of those things. Like, it's the same with the computer. Like, I resisted buying a new computer for ages, and my computer was probably in between 5 to 7 years old, and the Apple people were like, that's like not even something that we like support anymore. I don't know what you're doing. And then, like, when I finally bought it, I was like, oh my God, like, this is life changing. Because just like not having to wait for things to load, or, you know, like
Yeah.
allowing it like half an hour to boot up in the morning, or like whatever, whatever it is. And so yeah, like, I think that with you know, like, there's a satire comedy guy that I follow called, and he's got like, his website is Dumb Runner, and he has this, like, he'll have like this stock photo of somebody in running gear, and it'll be like, say something like like a quote like, running is the most accessible sport, and then it'll be
Yeah.
like dash runner in $1,100 worth of gear.
Yeah. Yeah. All you need is a pair of joggers. No, you don't.
So but I had, like, for ages, like, I always have the toe socks for everything. Like, I would
Yeah.
very, like, occasionally, I suppose, if I can't find them and I'm just doing a shorter run, I could wear normal socks, but I tend not to. And the kids have always been so creeped out by the toe socks on the line. They're like, oh, it's like a glove for your foot, it's so gross. And then we were up in Brisbane, and like, just from the walking around, like, Riley had gotten like a blister, and it was like sort of
Yeah.
like quite uncomfortable. And I was like, you know, just like maybe try one of those toe socks on. And just like, okay. And then she put it on. She's like, this is actually so much less painful. And I'm like, yes, it is. So yeah, like, I think, and that's sort of like what, I guess those are the sorts of things that I look at, like, with so many Black Friday type sales on. But some of them are like 15% off, which I feel like is insulting to me and to them. Like, don't come into my inbox with your shitty 15% off.
Yeah, 10 to 15% off. Don't even waste your freaking time.
So yeah, like, I focus on like probably my like main essentials would be like, I'm not in the market for a watch at the minute, so that's all good. But like, the toe socks, I pretty much just wear the underwear now. Like, for
Yeah.
ages I didn't. Like, it's fine to wear my normal underwear, but I just find that my normal underwear last a lot longer if I don't wear them running.
Yeah.
So, because I just get absolutely like hammered in like sweat, and, you know, and just like the chafing, and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. And then, you know, like, probably I was actually surprised, because like, I really do like the Tracksmith stuff, which is expensive but annoyingly really good. So it's like, occasionally I'll buy something that's on the expensive side, and I'm like, hopefully I buy it and it's a waste of money and I never have to do this dance again. But then, like, I get something and it's amazing. I'm like, shit. Anyway, they don't normally have any sales at all, but they had 20% off. So I was a bit like that. I was like, end of year present to me. I'll buy like a few things, because I'm not like, it's just one of those things where they don't have sales. And yeah, and then and of course I did that, and then like about 2 days later I got a gift from work, which was basically to spend $300 on myself anyway, which I was like, that's really awesome, but I'm really generous, but I could have really used this like 2 days ago.
See, I'm currently doing some research, like it's for some software that I use. I obviously did a quiz. Somehow I'm in this research. They're paying me $500 to do this research. It's half an hour a day from Monday to Friday this week, and they're going to pay me $500. So I figured that's like free money, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
so that can go towards my new watch.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think too, probably the other thing with the watch is like some people tend to be more reactive to some bands than others. Like I have
Yeah.
on occasion had getting that little rash with the Garmin. I haven't recently though.
You
Um,
know what I've found that I got it from, and I started taking it off when I was doing the washing up, like bits of the soapy water would get up under it, and
mm,
that caused the irritation more so than the watch band.
yeah,
Um, so now, not that I hand watch much things, like who's got time? I don't really. I put it in the dishwasher. Um, but now I take it off so that and like it may not even been the detergent, it might have just been the amount of moisture under there that sort of caused a little
yeah,
fungal thing.
yeah. Like I think, and I guess it depends too. Like now that like I have the sort of like the whoop, so I'd wear that at night, but the watch less so. Like if I remember, I'll
Yeah.
usually take it off. Um, and so yeah, I haven't had that in ages. But I also use like I do hand wash, but I use like one of those wand thingies, so I'm not
Oh
like
yeah. Yeah,
immersed.
yeah, you're not, yeah.
Um, and just because our dishwasher broke like 2 years ago, and I've not as yet rectified. This is like in the two-part basket. It's partly because I think the reason why it sort of like overflowed and would stopped working is because it wasn't correctly hooked up to the plumbing in the
Uh,
first place, and so then now it's like a plumbing problem, and I got to fix the plumbing before I can do that. And I was
yeah.
like, oh, Josh does most of the dishes anyway.
Good job. You're doing a good job, Dal. Just keep going.
So yeah, it's funny those things around. Like I have a few things around the house where I'm just like but when you like I got onto I found someone, so I always like getting rid of stuff that then needs to go to the tip, but I do not want to, like, one, our cars are probably not big enough to take anything to the tip, and I don't really want to spend
Yeah.
time like taking stuff to the tip. So I found this business that where like I'll accumulate everything on the back porch. He'll come by, he'll take it to the tip for me and send me a bill. And he did that the other week, and I just sent the money through to his pay ID, and he's like, if there was a record for fastest paying customer, you would be it. And it's very appreciated as a small business. And I was just like, yeah, like when you have a small business, you just interact with other small businesses in an
Yep.
entirely different way.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so like you talk about your dishwasher and that breaking and the taking the stuff to the tip. It's like cleaning out my spare room. Like it's not as simple as just cleaning it out. Like I'll then have to take stuff to the container, stuff for the tip, sort out clothes, you know. And it's not just a one. And I was doing something the other day and I was like, man, this is not just as simple as that one job. It's like there's 5 or 6 steps to get to that one job. And someone from the outside might just look at it and go, for Christ's sake, it's just cleaning out your spare room. It's like, no, no, no. Like
No.
yeah, it's a whole, and you get going and you think, oh, I'll just go and do that. And then you create another job, which is another 5 or 6 steps. Like, Yeah, so I can see why the dishwasher, like ours broke a few years ago, but it was just because the mice chewed into the back of it. So it was a pull it
Mm,
out, buy a new one, shove it in. But yeah, if we had to do stuff with the plumbing and things, and like I've got a few little jobs here like that, that then they might sound simple, but it's involving 2 or 3 different trades. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. And trying
no.
to coordinate all of them at the same time, it's not going to work. Like,
Yeah, and
yeah,
those sorts of things do, like, I'm like, right, get the dishwashing fixed, you've got to get the plumbing fixed. To get the plumbing fixed, we've got to, it's not just like a plumber, they also need, like, they've got to replace all of the clay pipes under the house
yeah,
and like dig up the backyard to get it to the main. And if we're doing that, then we probably need to be doing the bathroom at the same time because there's plumbing stuff that has to happen there. And then you're like, okay, but like you're probably not going to be able to hook up like a bathroom person until sometime next year.
yeah.
And it's very easy for something that looks like, oh, I might just get the dishwasher fixed. So it's like,
And then
really?
And then all of a sudden, you're up to $15,000 or $20,000 instead of just a $300 dishwasher. Yeah, yeah,
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, which I think I'm starting to come down on the side of just getting a like a renovation project manager
yeah,
because it's like just have I then have to talk to one person and then they deal with all of the rest of the stuff and whatever it costs. I'm sure it will be well worth
yeah,
whatever I would spend on that. So yeah.
yeah.
How's your how's in with everything else? How has your running been going? Or has it
Well,
been
because I
derailed
got
due to
bloody,
sickness?
yeah, like bloody hell. Like I'm back into it this week and I'm just keeping it really slow. Like there's lots of walking. Um, yeah, but it was really nice. I got out on Monday morning, and I'm child free, so I'll get out again today.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I just think while I am so fatigued and don't really know why, um, yeah, I'll just poke along,
yeah,
And realistically, I'm quite happy to hike for 50 kilometers in the
yeah,
Simpson Desert come June. I don't care. Um, but and I've also really been prioritizing my food, making sure, too often lately my breakfasts have been, half a piece of toast, um, or a full piece of toast in the car as I'm running someone to school. And yeah, I find if I can have a good breakfast, the rest of the day seems to flow much better. So last week, like I did a proper shop and actually bought fruit and veg, planned. So this week I've been making it a priority to have a good breakfast. And it's really funny how just like then my lunches look better. I'm not hoovering down
yeah.
6 to 8 mince biscuits
Almost
at morning
like a
tea.
cinnamon donut for breakfast isn't conducive to the salad at lunch. It just
That's it. And I've had a shit breakfast, so why not have just like, a hamburger for lunch or a pie? So it's one of those, yeah, breakfast is like your gateway, and if you can keep that really nice, then the rest of my day flows better. And I have had a bit of pushback from Buster because there's no chocolate biscuits in the fridge. But I'm like, I didn't explain anything to him. I said, oh, look, I just forgot to buy them. But I just think for the next couple of weeks, if I can keep them out of the fridge till I get this habit back on track, then
yeah,
I'll be more comfortable with having mint sliced biscuits in the fridge. But at the moment, no, can't do it.
yeah, yeah. It makes a big difference, I think, just getting other people on board, like
Yeah,
it's a lot easier to sort of like focus on that stuff when I get like Josh to do it with me rather than just
yeah,
sort of like him. I mean, like in some ways it's just not um, not as big a deal anymore because like a lot of his food is meat that I wouldn't eat anyway, and he often very conveniently buys meat flavored chips that I would also like not eat even though there's no meat in them. It's just like a flavor thing. And now that he's lactose free, there's a lot less things that he would like in the sort of dessert steaks that he would buy, but it still just helps having that little accountability partner in that, and makes it that little bit easier. But yeah, like I've had to just look at kind of like lowering the bar a little bit. Like I had like a few weeks of like where I would kind of like start out well. I'd like go to PT and get like a couple of runs in, and then as the strain of the week with parenting would take over, there would just be nothing for the rest of the week. And I was like, oh, like I just got to focus on, okay, like what's the aim? The aim is like good mental health. That's like that's what I'm doing this for, which means like getting outside and doing it, whatever that looks like. And this week I was like, oh, I feel like 5 kilometers feels like not overwhelming to me. Like that feels like something I could just go out and do and that I'm not going to avoid. Like that was sort of like where I was at with it. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that. And so I did that for two days. And then today I was like, oh, I'll take my shoes to the gym, but I'll see how I go, because we had all of that rowing and finished the rowing, and I was like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to go for a run. So I went and had coffee with some people from the gym afterwards instead. But yeah, just like keeping it at that level where I'm getting more from it than I'm like putting into it, and just like having let that habit build before like I go, particularly this time of year, like there's so much stuff like between, like just like, whether it's sort of like kids events or like work events or, like just getting everything done before Christmas. I mean, luckily now the kids don't believe in Santa, so they've been helping wrap presents and stuff like that. And Arlo usually go off to school and say, can you wrap a couple more presents so they're under the tree when I get home? I mean, yeah, sure, mate, I'll wrap a few more presents. So that then sort of does take the pressure off that, like having to do everything, in stealth mode. There's like a big pile of presents in the sunroom that it's like under some blankets or whatever, but they'll sort of like go in and like pick presents for the other one to wrap, and just makes that aspect of things a lot easier. But yeah, like I think just creating that little bit of breathing room, so then you can then kind of go, okay, like I'm getting some of what I need here, and then I can kind of like build on this, and then potentially look at like what I would like to do, next year, and when it's not 32 degrees.
Yeah, and that is sort of how I'm approaching, my training from now on. Just something is better than nothing, and walking, it is fine to walk. And I just need to get out, and just be by myself outside without looking around my house and seeing everything that needs to be done and feeling like it's overwhelming. To just get up early and get outside. Like I'm up early anyway. So why not just take that hour and a half to just do something that makes me feel good?
Yeah. And it is so nice in that, like now that it's sort of like it's a little bit lighter, early in the morning, and it really is like it's having that, like now I start to get that little bit of restriction in there, in that like if I don't go early, it's going to be pretty uncomfortable to not likely to happen. And so it just sort of kind of goes like, you go now or you don't go at all. And because there's no currently there's no air conditioning in the garage, like running on the treadmill is
Yuck.
probably worse than running outside, like just because it gets so hot in there and you're
Yeah.
not getting any kind of a breeze or anything.
Nothing good to look at either.
No, it's just like, oh, I should probably clean up those pictures that are going over there. I'm pretty sure if I took those bags of soft toys to the tip, the kids wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think that sort of, I always found that helpful, that, you know, like you either do it now or you don't do it at all.
Yeah.
Is a lot better than the lie that you can do it later. It's like,
Yeah.
lie. I'm not going to do
Yeah.
it later. I'm not going to do that after
No.
3.
No.
That's not. That is not going to happen at all. So yeah, I think that just particularly this time of year, just taking the pressure off so that you can not feel like running or walking or anything else is just like another pressure in what is often like a pretty pressure, like everyone's pressured to be like finishing up like all of this work stuff before you have like a bit of office shutdown at the end of the year, you know, like kids are hobbling to the finish line. One of the teachers at Riley's school actually is having like a topic test this week, and they've already done exams and the reports are written. It's like, give it up, dude.
Just stop, mate.
Like like everyone knows that the teachers are done, the kids are done. They're not doing anything. Like maybe they're decorating something, maybe they're colouring something in, maybe they're playing a game, but everyone is just like completely mentally checked out. Just embrace it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I read a good thing just briefly, and it's about how, like, you know, everyone at this time of year, everyone, especially mothers, because we do take on the main parenting role, but everyone's just tired and exhausted and worn out. And it's because we didn't start the start of the year with a full tank of gas. Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my God, that is so true, because we didn't start from our usual, you know, all refreshed, ready to go. We sort of might have been at 75 or 50%. And so now we get to this time of the year and it's just like everyone I speak to is exhausted.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, I do tend to feel like that if I was like, probably one of the things that, for the kids, that I would do if I was like redesigning it is I would probably for the like the end of year have like an 8-week term.
Yeah.
And not a 10-week term. I know that a lot of times the kids are in school because it's convenient for working parents, and it's not always about, it's not just about them getting educated or, you know, or whatever. Like there are other economic factors at play, which is definitely like when Arlo was saying to me, it was like, I graduate on Tuesday. Why am I still going to be going to school for 3 days after that? And it's like, because Mama needs you to go to school for 3 days after that.
I need you.
But yeah, and I think it is good to, like, it's sort of probably one of those things where it's also not just like that empty tank from the last year, but the last several years where it's just been slowly like eating away at like your reserves and all of the things that, you know, like, that support you, and just all of that sort of build up. And I just think that it's completely natural to be just like getting to, and to just be like having to look at it and going, okay, like what is the best best choice for like for maintaining some kind of like mental health here that I can make. And you know, like for me, like some of that has looked like picking the kids up early, like when they're tired and like they don't want to,
Yeah.
they might not want to go. Like I forced Riley to have a day off the other day because she'd had two like late drama performances on Saturday and Sunday, and she was like, I could go. And I'm like, you go, you're going to be completely gassed by the end of the week. Just like take a day off, reset. And for me, kind of like too with Christmas, just going, what is a minimum viable thing that like where kids are still gonna like enjoy themselves and everything like that, but not really committing to
Yeah.
anything beyond that. So because you know, like it's really nice to have what is close to 3 weeks off, but you don't want to like, I kind of don't want to like be using that to recover from completely like doing way too much in the lead up to Christmas.
Yeah.
Like just be like, oh, like just be it kind of like be more of a normal day, and then like in all that time like we can go out and do stuff and go paddleboarding and swimming and you know like fun stuff, and not feel like, oh, now I need like at least 4 days just at home just to decompress.
And it's really funny how you said like, you know, you forced Riley to have a day off school because otherwise you knew she was going to be completely gassed. And it's funny how we do that for our kids, but I know I don't do that for myself. Like I push through until I'm completely gassed. And I was only chatting with a friend this week about it, how we need to get better at recognizing earlier. Like instead of waiting till we hit here, like get to here and go, okay, like these are the signs. I need to just pull back a little bit here. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
I'm a shocker.
even with
I just
work,
go.
we were talking about like um, tracking leave for employees, like just like when people were going to like run out of sick leave or whatever. But I also
Yeah,
said, look, I also want to track it from the other point of view, is like people who never take sick leave, because I see that as a bit of a red flag too, because
yeah,
making that transition from being casual to permanent or contractor to permanent is really hard. And the amount of times in the last year where I've had to go to like an appointment for the kids and then like ended up working until like 8 o'clock at night to finish the work that I didn't have a chance to do during that appointment time. And I'm like,
yeah,
I should have that should have been carer's leave. Like
yeah,
that would have made that day a lot less stressful. And just,
yeah,
you know, so wanting to sort of like get on and like making sure that, you know, like, yeah, that is encouraged, and you're actually thinking that I'm actually thinking about that and going, no, that should be leave. Or not also kind of going like, oh, I'm going away for the weekend, but I could do like a little bit of work on Friday and a little bit of work on Monday, or you know, like squeeze some stuff in and just be like, no, less squeezing, just take the time off.
yes,
And
yeah. And
you know,
it's and like I know this when I was working remotely, like if you do that, no one sort of knows like that work gets done. So everyone thinks, oh, you know, it's just being done in the normal time. Like,
yeah,
um, yeah, it's not until you make a decision to sort of stop doing that and then you say, hey, look, I can't get all this work done. We need to have a look at something here. It's not until you do that that your employer or your manager or someone might go, oh, okay, well, I didn't know because you were just getting it all done. And it's, yeah, it's like,
yeah,
oh, yeah, no, thanks for that. Yeah, I was getting it all done at great cost to everything else in my life. But hey, you know,
yeah. Like it's amazing. Like you can only sustain that for a short period of time. Like
yeah,
before my hours like went up with work recently, like I was doing 20 hours and now I'm doing 28. And the 28 just make it makes the week a lot more achievable. That's all it does. Like I
Yep.
don't necessarily have like, but I couldn't have lasted much longer attempting to cram things into that 20 hours. Like it
Yeah.
was starting to like take a toll. And you can kind of like work at that intensity for a short period of time, but not forever. You know, there's going to
No.
be like a breaking point. So yeah, like, and it was like, it was a really good sort of learning experience because like after that happened, like I had so much more of a relaxing week because I wasn't trying to like, I wasn't continually like feeling like I was behind on everything
Yep.
because I just didn't have enough hours.
Mm.
So yeah, it's
Oh,
it's I think it's a hard thing to hard adjustment to make. Like, oh, like I just need to do less.
yeah. I know. It's like, huh? This is not in my vocabulary. This is not me. Like,
Yeah, and you know, I was just like, oh yeah, less. Okay. Um, that is going to take a little while for my brain to catch up on, but okay. Um, sure.
we'll try. We'll give it a go. But it's really fun, like just as you're saying that, how it's sort of like it's like running training, isn't it? Like you could go hell for leather and do all like really high intensity training, but for how long can you do that for? Like
Yeah, I know.
you
Like
can't do it forever, can
in
you?
this,
Like,
it's a predominantly a strength training group that like one of those Facebook groups that you're in that you're not really sure how you ended up in there. But somebody had asked for recommendations on running programs in there, and somebody had recommended run less, run faster, and I'm like, oh, if you want to hate running,
yeah,
sure. Like where that it's all intervals and all intensity all the time. It's like it's no wonder like people go, oh, like running sucks. And I'm like, yeah,
I hate
that
running.
kind
Yeah,
of running does suck. And just like not having any, and probably I think leads to a really underdeveloped aerobic base because you're
yeah,
never doing that kind of like that low intensity stuff. It's always hard. Yeah, God, it just sounds really gross
yeah.
to me. Um,
Just nah. If that's what running was, I would be tapping out and saying no thanks. I'll go and I'll take up something else because yeah, that no.
no.
But it's like life, isn't it? We can't go at that full bore all the time. Like we
Yeah,
have
and there's
to have like
always that sort of like temptation to like be like the more intense something is, like the more effective it is. But oftentimes that can be like not the case. So, you know, like whether it's sort of like, you know, like managing, like I am sure that when I'm feeling like I've got all of the resources and the time I need to do the work that I want to do, that quality of work improves and I'm less likely to miss things and I'm more likely to be on the
yes,
ball and I'm more likely to be able to take a step back and look at the big picture and go, okay, well, like this is something that we need to like work on as opposed to being in it and in the weeds and, you know, just
yeah,
like crisis managing. And you know, it's a bit the same too with running. Is like the temptation is always like, well, you know, like if I'm running all these high intensity intervals, it's harder, therefore I'm going to get fitter faster. But really it's like, how long can you do it for? You
mm,
know, probably not very long, you know, before there's some kind of like burnout situation happening. And ultimately, like the person who can do something for 10 years is going to get more fit than somebody who can maybe like muscle their way through an aggressive 12-week program before they fall in a heap and go, oh God, that was hard. And now in the course of doing this really intense program, I've now like sort of put all of my relationships under pressure by going, I can't do that. I got to go for a run. You know, and, you know, like I haven't like slept more than 6 hours in 3 months and, you know, like all of that sort of stuff. Like it's one of those things that I think I was reading a thing about how the eating disorders can play into running and how it's easy to confuse, because like a lot of people, they'll be training and they'll be like, particularly like younger people are probably more prone to pressure to kind of look a certain way or lose weight or whatever, and they'll be attempting to lose body fat at the same time, and then their performance will temporarily improve based on that training, and it will kind of line up with when their body fat has dropped, but the two things are actually unrelated. But they'll always go, oh, like my performance was better because I weighed less, and then after that, that performance will start tanking because it was actually the training that was improving their performance, and now they're severely underweight and underfueled, and it just tanks. And then they're kind of in their head, they're like, oh, I just need to lose more body fat. And that creates this really toxic cycle. So it's really easy to kind of have so many like variables in play and associate with a certain level of improvement with something that was actually like not related to that at all. You know, like I could look at like one of my best training cycles and I could go, oh, it's because like I did this program and, you know, I did this strength training and I did, you know, like this and this. But the reality is it's probably because at the time I was only, you know, like probably working 10 hours a week. Maybe that's why. And so, you know, like had much more opportunity to sort of like sleep and not be that stressed out and, you know, like all of that sort of stuff. But, you know, like people be like, no, it's like this one specific threshold workout that I did. And it's like, probably not.
No.
Anyway, we better get back to life admin, I suppose.
I better, you know, get researching more watches.
Thank you for listening this week. And if you have any questions at all, you can just shoot them through to me either on socials or email. That's all linked up in the show notes. And I have 2 more episodes that I recorded last year with Kirsten, so they are in the pipeline, and then after that we'll get into some new episodes for this year, which will be super exciting. So I will talk to you next time.